Hey, what's up YouTube? So Clash Royale just gifted out the Evo Tesla to everyone, and that coincides perfectly with my mid-ladder free-to-play deck recommendation, Hoggy Q, but with Knight, Evo Tesla, and Evo Firecracker. The reason I think this deck is so strong is because it does extremely well at dealing with popular mid-ladder cards like Mega Knight, Witch, Wizard, but even more importantly than the strength of the deck, it's really easy to play. The plays of this deck are relatively simple, and if you just learn a few important rules and tips that I'm going to be covering in this video, then you should very quickly see yourself winning more games and pushing up ladder. Throughout this video, I'm going to be explaining my plays and thought processes as I'm playing, so you can understand why I'm making the plays that I do and then replicate it in your own games. We'll be covering more or less every matchup in the game, and if you're looking for a specific matchup, they'll be timestamped in the description and in the video timeline for you to look through. With all that being said, let's start off by breaking down this first game against Golem Healer. So we've gotten some early damage from a mixture of both Firecracker chip and some hog damage. My opponent has gone for Skeleton Dragon, so I'm just going to use a Knight to tank. The Knight isn't really going to have too much HP, so I'm not expecting it to counter push or anything. It's mainly just to defend. He does use a bar barrel just so that I don't get any damage. I'm cycling my log, and we're basically just waiting till double elixir, because in single elixir I have the advantage. That's why I've managed to get such a massive advantage. Here I cycle my Firecracker. I don't want to cycle my Tesla because I don't want it out of cycle. When they play, basically in any deck, when they play their building targeting troop, in this case it's Golem, when they play that, that's when you cycle your Tesla, but before that you tend not to want to cycle it. Also, by cycling my Firecracker, I'm just getting close to that evolution Firecracker, which you're trying to get as many as you can in a game. We're basically both waiting till double elixir, because double elixir is where my opponent's going to be able to build that massive push, and I'm going to have to try and defend. Here, I just decided to use my Evo Cracker. I mean, it's going to get nice damage. I was hovering my skeleton because I was keeping track of his cycle. I knew that he had to bar barrel, and we managed to take his tower. So, in essence, at least I've managed to take his tower, and that's great, but I'm still going to have to defend a big golem push. And now I also don't have my Evo Cracker. So I cycle my Knight. Why do I cycle my Knight? Mainly because I know that in this big defense, I'm going to want two Knights. I'm going to need some stuff to tank. And even if I have this high DPS Tesla and stuff, if nothing's tanking forward, it's pointless. So I need to get two tanks back. Then I go for my Tesla and Firecracker. He goes for his Nado. You can see that I'm not over defending. I go for my Ice Spirit just to slow things down. Here I have another Knight. It's going to distract the healer. I get a second Tesla down. Now, unfortunately, the Lumberjack does go straight to my Tesla, but everything's fine. We've got 20 seconds. All I've got to do is defend. At this point, it's just about stalling. I know that I'm probably not going to be able to fully defend this. Unfortunately, as well, the Lumberjack goes straight to my Firecracker. But again, look, 10 seconds. All I've got to do is stall. It's not really about can I defend. If I'm looking at the clock is a weapon, right? You can use the clock as a weapon. That maybe if you had more time, you would take my tower. Probably not. But doesn't matter, we get the win. Great game. So in this next matchup, we're playing against Recruit's Bait. Now, I don't know that, obviously, so I'm cycling a log, and I'm kind of just waiting to see what he's going to do. I'm playing quite passively, and he goes Recruits in the back. So I cycle a Knight, and basically this is how you want to defend Recruits when you're playing with Hoggy Q. So I go for a Knight in one side, and that Knight I'm going to also use like a Ice Spirit or some other cycle cards in order to help out. And then I want you to memorize that Firecracker position. You'll see how it hits all of the Recruits with it, and it gets all of the shields gone. So my Knight on the right side is doing nice damage. I log just to bring everything down, break the shields, and then I go for this Tesla in the middle. Tesla in the middle will clean everything up, and I took basically no damage. Now this is important. So I now know that his Recruits are out of cycle, and usually you never want to go hog into Recruits, or when they have Recruits in cycle, because then they're going to get a massive counter push. So when he doesn't have Recruits in cycle, it's important that I punish him. So I immediately went for a hog. We got some nice damage. I'm up a little bit, and now I'm just going to defend. So I go for Skeletons. Skeletons will more or less clean up the Mighty Miner. If you used his ability, I would just go for an Ice Spirit and then take maybe like a little bit of Mighty Miner damage. I go for a Firecracker, mainly because he has arrows, and I want to just cycle Firecrackers first, generally at the start of defenses. I go for Log to break the shield, and then Firecrackers so that it puts them down to half HP. Ice Spirit to stun them, and you can look at that right side. That was beautiful defense. So now I've got Tesla. You can see that I'm hovering Skeletons. Why am I hovering Skeletons? Because I know that he's got Wall Breakers in cycle, and he could have got Wall Breakers at the bridge. He didn't, and here I actually expected my Firecracker to miss, and this kind of messed up my cycle because I had to use my Skeletons on the right side. It's extremely important to get King Tower, right? King Tower in this matchup is so huge that I was willing to even just basically sacrifice a bad hog just to get it. I went Ice Spirit because I also knew he was going to go for a Mighty Miner, and okay, if I'm going to go in, I might as well go in. Now I have to waste. You can kind of see how my whole cycle is kind of messed up because of those Skeletons that I placed. Ideally I would want to save this Firecracker for defense, But I decided, okay, I've got a Firecracker, I'm going to try and support it. He goes arrows onto it, probably the smart play. And so I'm like, okay, time to go in. He goes for a Goblin Gang, but that's not enough, so I go for my Earthquake. We get really nice chip damage and just tons of hog damage on the tower, and now I need to defend. So okay, first I go for Tesla. I don't want to cycle my Firecracker yet. Tesla up high, because if he played anything at the bridge, in this case he went Wall Breakers, it would hit it, so that was nice. Little Ice Spirit, right side we went Firecracker, that got arrowed. We're gonna get, I mean we already have King Tower, but I guess King Tower again from the Firecracker. And so far things are looking fantastic. Right, I'm gonna go for a Hog again, perfect timing, and so I went for my Firecracker at the bridge because I knew that he was gonna go Guards, right? So I know exactly what's in his hand because he doesn't have, normally he would want to go Recruits, but he already used it. I went for a Log, and then misclicked an Earthquake, so that was a bit of a mistake. But here I'm just cycling. You can see how I'm going like Knight on one side, Firecracker on the other. You don't want to use both of them in the same lane necessarily, because otherwise you're not going to be able to deal with both lanes. Now he's just an Earthquake range, and we made a pretty difficult matchup look actually quite simple. So that's how you beat Recruit's Bait. In this next game, I'm going to be playing against Elixir Golem, and this can also be a very, very tricky matchup for Hog EQ, but actually with this deck, if you play it correctly, it's quite simple to win. So as always, when this is your starting hand, you go for a Hog first play, that's always the best first play, and then he goes for a Tornado. I don't really know what, like, Tornado isn't enough of a clue for me to be able to tell you what deck he's playing at this point, so I'm kind of just cycling general cards. I'm not playing anything too aggressive. I'm not cycling a Tesla. I'm not going to cycle an Earthquake. I'm just cycling cycle cards. I'm sort of waiting. Then he goes for his Cage. Okay, so a Cage will pop out a Brawler that's basically like a support troop slash like tank, kinda. High damage tank or whatever you want to call it. So I cycle my tank, and the point I'm trying to make is I'm mirroring what he's doing. So the reason I go for an Earthquake here is because it'll put his Firecracker into one-shot range. That my Firecracker will kill his Firecracker. My Knight survives with a bit of HP, and my Firecracker survives because we made that play. And now I'm going to try and quote-unquote punish him. By punish, basically what I mean is he doesn't have his Goblin Cage in cycle, he's just got to go Nado, and I already have a push going, so I should definitely hog. You want to be hogging when you out-cycle them, basically. Here I go for a Knight, and I also go for Skeletons. Important to notice why I go for Skeletons. It's a small detail, but the reason I go for Skeletons is because now my Knight survives with enough HP that he's forced to respond, otherwise my Knight would get a bit of damage. And I was going to cycle those Skeletons anyway. Same reason here is that I was basically at max Elixir, and I could have gone for my Firecracker in the back, but what's the point? If it doesn't get spelled, then it's going to get no value anyway, so I might as well use it and get some value. I get King Tower here, which is very nice, and once again, we've outcycled his Cage. So I go for a Hog, and when he doesn't have Cage in cycle, his other Hog counter is Tornado. So I go for Skeletons as well, just in case he was going to go for a Tornado. I get a Firecracker down. You want to be quite aggressive with your Firecrackers, generally. Because normally they're just going to get arrowed or nadoed or something regardless, so you want to make sure they get value before they die. So here we got a couple hits, and basically when you're defending Elixir Golem pushes, the kind of methodology is the first thing you want to be doing is get your Tesla down for the Elixir Golem, get your Firecracker down as quickly as possible, ideally even before your Tesla if they have arrows, and what you're really trying to do is make that Elixir Golem pop, because the Elixir Golem will give you Elixir once it dies. If that Elixir Golem stays alive for too long, you're not going to get all that extra Elixir, and the extra Elixir is really what will help you defend. So you need to make sure that that's kind of your priority. Here we go, I've got a Firecracker, I go for a Tesla. A Knight is basically, oh, sorry, my Hog was just to distract. You can see I'm basically distracting the troops with the Hog whilst I'm trying to kill this Elixir Golem. And now that the Elixir Golem's dead, look, I just suddenly get a jump in Elixir. Now I can log. I've got a Knight up high to tank for these air cards. My Firecracker's still alive. And that was beautiful defense, right? That's basically the goal. You want to kill the Firecrackers, the Elixir Golem as quickly as possible, whilst also stacking Firecrackers. So those two things. So, okay, he goes for Goblin Cage, blah, blah, blah. I'm just applying pressure on the right side. And now he's setting up. This is the normal sort of routine, you could say. Look, I was really aggressive with that Evo Firecracker. And that's kind of like the normal pattern with this deck, is that usually they'll just keep building big pushes. You have to keep defending and find ways to get damage. So here again, you can see my Hog is distracting whilst my Firecracker, my Tesla, and my troop, and my towers are basically just DPSing down his Elixir Golem. And without his Elixir Golem, this push is just useless. So now again, I can go in. I've just killed his entire push. I can go in. He's got his Evo E-Drag. I go for Prediction Earthquake onto his Cage. I know he's got it. Hog doesn't even get any damage, but honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter whether or not I get damage. You can see how I'm spacing everything out. I don't really know why I played my Firecracker on this side, but it's going to get NATO'd regardless. Again, look, Knight is distracting the support troops whilst my towers, Tesla, and everything is targeting his Elixir Golem. Now the Elixir Golem is dead, I'm also playing stuff up high. To distract these support troops, you want to keep playing stuff up high. Now I have 2 Crackers, 1 Evo, I'm basically just going all in, and I mean, this guy, he's done for, right? There's just too much pressure, there's too many things for him to worry about. My Hog's going off on this tower, and we win the game. Beautifully played. Up next, we've got a game against Pekka Bridgespam, and my opponent starts off the game by going for a Bandit in the back. And this is a bit of a strange play from him. Most of the time, people just go for like Bandit at the bridge. And so in this case, since I already cycled my skeletons, I already know that usually if they're running a Bandit, they're probably playing a Bridgespam deck, or maybe like some Mega Knight deck. In either case, cycling a building is usually a good play. Well, it's not a bad play at least, so I went for my Tesla, which is not something I normally do. Now he's gone for a 4 Elixir card in the right lane, and this is kind of a rule of thumb, is when your opponent goes for a 4 Elixir card in single, you should go for your Hog Rider in the opposite lane. If they cycle anything less than 4 Elixir, you can just defend something in the same lane, but if it's 4 Elixir or more, you should go in the opposite lane. Here I tried getting King Tower, kind of messed up, so we do take a tiny bit of damage, but we're still up, and things are looking good. He goes for a Ghost. See, here my cycle is really awkward, and so it's kind of strange, and I'm wondering, okay, what should I do here? I was sort of waiting, and then he eventually goes for his Bandit. Now, unfortunately, I tried to actually play the Hog so that it would actually catch the Ghost as well. Ghost does connect, but then it's fine. I mean, I get a Firecracker, and sometimes you are going to get weird cycles against Bridgespam decks. Instantly go for a high Tesla so that it will snipe off this Magic Archer and keep my Firecracker alive. He goes for his Zap, kills off my push, and here I'm ready. I'm hovering my Knight. Why? Because my Tesla is dead, and I know that he's got Battle Ram. And so if he goes Battle Ram at the bridge, kind of need to be careful because I don't have my Tesla in cycle. So I'm ready to go Knight Log if he goes Battle Ram at the bridge, but he doesn't. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, he doesn't have his Pekka in cycle, so I'm just gonna, he has to go for some support troop, probably an Ewiz. He goes for an Ewiz, hovering skeletons in case he tries playing like anything to try and snipe it, and my Firecracker gets 2 crazy shots, my Hog gets damage, and now we're in the lead. So that was a really nice play, and I'm just sort of waiting for him to punish me, but if he doesn't, I'm gonna punish him. So, okay, he goes for a Pekka, and if I was using Mighty Miner, I'd play this differently, but since he's gone for Pekka same lane, I'm going to go for my Knight same lane, then cycle a Tesla. I need to be very, very focused on defense right now, because defending Evo Pekkas is going to be quite difficult. But defense, sometimes offense is your best defense, so by going for this Hog, I pulled back and made sure that the Tesla was targeting the Battle Ram. Right? There's nothing in front tanking for it. Unfortunately, as Ghosts always seem to do, is Ghost does get to my tower. So I have to go for this Tesla quickly before his Battle Ram connects. My Knight is still there. The Knight is not lined up with the tower, which is nice. And even though we take some damage, usually it's not really an issue because you're going to get damage in return. So as long as you don't lose against like a massive Evo Pekka push, you're probably in good shape. Because that was basically what I was hoping for, was look, I know I'm going to take some damage here, but I know I'm going to get damage in return because I have Evos, I have Hog, can just like, I mean, you just saw how I got tons of damage. So I wasn't really worried. Now we're up 500, beautiful, and I'm sort of waiting. Okay, well, he doesn't have Ewiz in cycle, so I might as well just go really aggressive, right? If he's going to go Pekka, which he's going to go for, I'm still going to get at least 1 Hog hit, and if I get anything more than 1 Hog hit, I win. And I actually do get 2 Hog hits. So that's kind of how I outplayed his cycle there, because he didn't have Ewiz. I punished him pretty hard. For the 4th matchup, we've got another really interesting one. It's against Pig's EQ. And this is a matchup where I actually think having Tesla benefits you quite a lot, because you can always play your Tesla outside of EQ range. It's why I recommend this deck, is because against matchups like this, for example, it's so much easier to play because you don't need to learn to cannon trick, you don't need to learn fancy techniques with 3-card cycle. You can literally just go for your Tesla up high every single time. So I go for a Hog, he goes for a cannon. Notice how I'm not going for an Earthquake. That's one rule of thumb I want you guys to take away from this video, is just don't cycle your Earthquake in single. Basically ever. Because usually it's going to be an overcommit. I mean, if they've misplaced a building and you go for a Hog, that's like a decent time to go for an Earthquake to punish. But like 95% of the time, you just don't want to be going for an Earthquake. Like here, I also for some reason don't know why I didn't play a Knight. I should have just gone for a Knight earlier and not taken any damage. But I thought the Tesla would do a better job. So here, this is an interesting thing. Why do I go for a hog right side? I go for a hog right side because I know that he wants to try and get a king tower off of my Evo Firecracker. So I'm going to make it the timing as difficult as possible for him. Whilst he's trying to get king tower by releasing skeletons and getting king tower off my Firecracker, I'm going for a hog EQ in the right lane, and if he wants to defend it because he's using cannon, he'd have to cannon trick. So trying to pull off a cannon trick whilst also getting king tower is like a perfect example of how yes, he could have done that. It's like an insanely good player could have possibly done that. That's true, but it's a good example of how I'm making it as difficult as possible for him. And in that case, he didn't get his king tower activated, so that was great. This is another thing to note. I go for my Firecracker basically as soon as I have enough elixir. I don't wait for the queen to cross the bridge, because either, you have to think about this from their perspective, right? He's got the queen ability. Either he's going to pop the queen ability early to take care of my Firecracker, and then it's going to cross the bridge, and it should be easy for me to defend because he doesn't have an ability. Or he's going to do what he did, and he's going to wait and try and delay that ability, but it's going to be dead by that point. So that's why you need to try and take care of queens as early as possible. Here, because I have my Evo Tesla, I went for immediately a hog plus earthquake, and really what I was trying to do there is outcycle him, because I went for a hog before he went for, whilst he went for his pigs, and then I defended. So now I've outcycled him, and I know that he's got to go for something, so I also go for my Firecracker at the bridge. Beautiful defense. Log. Log's important because otherwise that Ice Spirit would have put my Firecracker in log range. Now log doesn't kill my Firecracker, it is still alive, I've protected it. I'm going to Earthquake the queen just for damage, and we have a bit of a lead, which is nice. Very nice. Go Ice Spirit, I mean I still need to defend. Like Tesla does a good job of delaying pigs, but it doesn't fully counter them, so you need to keep that in mind. I basically just ignore this queen on the right side, like it's not very important. But here I do cycle a Firecracker to try and kill off his cannon. So he gets a nice set of skellies. I'm going for this Tesla, I'm hovering it because I think he might go for pigs. Instead I'm like, okay, if you're going to play passively, then fine. I've outcycled his cannon, so I can just log and hit either cycle cards or something. The only way he can defend is basically by dropping all of his elixir, which is what he did. But that's just good for me, right? So we still have a nice lead. He goes for pigs. I'm using my Firecracker to snipe off his queen. I'm logging. I don't really mind if my Firecracker dies. That's fine. I'm just trying to take as little damage as possible. Now he goes for an earthquake, and I realize, okay, I probably need to either get some damage or start EQ cycling. In this case, since I have a knight counter pushing on the left lane, I'm like, okay, I'm probably just going to go for a Firecracker because I know he's going to go for a hog. Sorry, other way. I know he's going to go for a cannon. That really sucks that he had Evo Cannon. That's my bad. I should have known that and played my Firecracker in a different spot. But here I go for a hog just to outcycle. He gets his Evo Skellies down. We do get a hit, which is nice. That's an important hit. I'm cycling a Firecracker. That's a really important thing in this matchup, is actually your Firecracker is just really OP. They can't really kill your Firecrackers, and it's basically the only thing that gives you a chance of winning this matchup, is just trying to stack these Firecrackers. And you know that if you're going to go hog EQ, they're going to try and cannon trick, or they're going to try and use a cannon to defend. And the way in which you can outplay that is by not going for an earthquake, just go for a Firecracker. He'll kill the cannon, and now it's a counter-pushing troop, and he basically just did all that fancy play for nothing. So again, we're basically even at this point. Like, this is a pretty tough matchup. A very tough matchup. And you can see how we're sort of slowly outplaying him. I'm keeping this Firecracker alive. It's doing amazing work. My knight is also stalling. I'm back to a hog, so I immediately go for a hog. I'm earthquaking, just applying pressure. And so now he has to waste, what, 6 elixir on delivery and cannon. Going for this high Tesla. Beautiful Firecracker at the same time. Sorry, Evo Tesla. Firecracker should have really hit the piggies. I'm EQ cycling, and we managed to take the game. So you can kind of see how I'm playing troops up high, I'm cycling Firecrackers in the back, and I'm just generally going for hog EQ, hog EQ, hog EQ, and out chipping him. Next up, we have a very, very interesting matchup against Graveyard Freeze. So the first thing I want to talk about is how do I know, at what point do I know that he's playing Graveyard Freeze? So I go for a Hog Ice Spirit, he goes for a Nado. I have no idea what he's playing at this point. I can assume it's probably not a cycle deck, unless it's like the Remieli minor cycle deck. No other real cycle deck uses Tornado, so it's probably a beatdown deck or something heavy, or control deck most likely. So I'm kind of just waiting and seeing, okay, what's he going to do? I cycle a Knight, he cycles his Knight. Okay, Knight Tornado, this could be Ice Bow, this could be Splashyard, but I don't really know. Go for a Firecracker, and there's one card that's like a giveaway. I'm hovering Skeletons because I thought he was playing Splashyard. Didn't manage to catch it. I don't know how that didn't catch, but anyway, I go for a Hog because we've outcycled his Nado, and then he goes for a Bowler. I thought he was playing Splashyard and was going to go for a cannon or a Spear Goblin Hut because nobody plays this deck anymore, but this was the dead giveaway. Having Bowler Knight is pretty much a giveaway that it's going to be a freeze deck. Now it could be a Loon freeze deck if he was running like Lumberjack, that's also possible. That also runs Evo Knight. But here I go for my Log, I go for my Knight as well, and we defend pretty well. But at this point I already know, okay, there's a very high chance this guy's running freeze, so I need to be very careful. It's not actually so bad playing against freeze. Here I go for a Hog anyway, right? If he nados, I mean, my Hog's just going to get tons of damage onto his King Tower because the Knight is still tanking. So that's why I thought, it's still not a bad Hog, right? His King Tower is getting closer and closer to the same HP as his Princess Towers, so it's not a bad play going for the Hog. Here I actually expected that there's a chance he might go for a Bar Barrel, but I kind of just said, nah, this guy he's not going to predict me. He did predict me, and actually if he was a millisecond quicker he would have got damage. But anyway, he goes for a Knight. I know he's got Graveyard, so I block the bridge. I'm not going to let that Knight cross the bridge. He goes for a really bad Graveyard, so I go for a Firecracker up high, just to deal with all of these recruits and stuff. And I just tried defending without an Earthquake, because I don't think I actually need it. My Firecracker goes in the left lane, and so this is the most important tip I'll give in this matchup, is against Graveyard you have to go opposite lane. So he's got Tornado. My Firecracker does get a hit. That's the beautiful thing about Hog EQ, is that if your Hog doesn't get damage, you've always got Firecracker as like a secondary win condition. So I cycle a Tesla. That's important because he's going to go for a Bowler, he's going to get his Xyz, he's going to get that kind of stuff. And so I need to make sure that everything is like, my defense is on point. Like I know right now he's got Evo Executioner. What I'm trying to get to is just my Firecracker. Like I want my Firecracker to help defend against this Graveyard push. So we managed to attack whilst defending. That's like a common trait, right? Is attacking whilst defending. So we basically stopped him from applying too much pressure. Here comes out his freeze. He does get a ton of damage, but at this point I'm still not really worried because even though we are down, I know that in the future he doesn't have a big spell, so it's not like he can spell cycle me. And damage is like kind of guaranteed in this matchup. If I just out-cycle him, which shouldn't be too difficult, then I can basically always get some damage. So I'm not too worried, even at this point. I'm sacking Firecrackers. That's a big weakness of Graveyard Freezes, that because it doesn't run a big spell, it often can't really deal with your Firecrackers. Go for a Tesla up high, because I know he's going to need to protect his Executioner so that it doesn't die to my Firecracker, and that means I go for a Tesla. A lot of matchups against a Graveyard are bridge battles. I go for a Hog because he used his Tornado, and then I just go for this Log Ice. You can look at this really, really nice defense, right? He basically went for a Bar Barrel and Graveyard, but in the same way when I used to play 2.6, you can just go for like a Log plus a Cannon. Here I went for a Log plus a Firecracker instead, and had the same effect. Now, why am I applying pressure on the right lane? Well, he's clogged up the left lane. This is really important. He's clogged up the left lane, and I'm forcing out Elixir, and I'm getting value. I'm not really doing this attack on the right side for damage. You can see that I forced out a Bowler, and the Bowler is basically dead. So he's not really going to get much of a counter push. What you want to avoid is them building up these humongous pushes. And you can avoid that by basically splitting up your attack. Going into both lanes and dealing damage is the best way of stopping him. So here I get an Evo Tesla. Evo Tesla is really nice in this matchup as well, just to help clean up against everything. You can see how he's splitting his damage because I'm forcing him to split up his damage. I'm not letting him go into one lane, because whenever he goes into one lane, I'm going in another lane. I'm just applying pressure and stopping him from going in. I'm applying so much pressure that he can never build up a massive push. He's basically never gotten more than a tank plus a Graveyard the whole game. Now I'm just spell cycling. I'm like, okay, there's nothing this guy can do. I just got to get one Log, skellies, blah blah blah, and we've won the game. But you can kind of see the strategy of changing lanes is the most important thing in this matchup. Making sure you split their damage and stacking Firecrackers. Up next, I'm playing against a Boss Bandit Recruits matchup, and it's kind of like one of those hellish mid-ladder games where you're like, what the hell is this guy playing? I go for a Hog Ice Spirit first play. He's got Dagger Duchess as well, which makes this especially difficult, but you're going to see how we win. I go for this Firecracker, notice the placement, it'll hit all of the recruits and break all of their shields. I go for a Knight up high, just to pull everything to the middle. Played it a little late, but still, it doesn't really matter. My Firecracker's teeing off. He maybe didn't have arrows in cycle at this point. I don't know why my Firecracker's still alive, but if your Firecracker's allowed to stay alive, it's really easy defense. So remember my rule, if they drop a 5 Elixir card, 4 elixir card or more in the back, you go opposite lane. So he goes for a prince, I go opposite lane. Very important Ice Spirit placement. I want you guys to memorize that exact tile. So it's 2 tiles from the bridge on the opposite lane in the middle. That will basically always make a prince sort of like jump onto the Ice Spirit and not just beeline to your tower, but also the Ice Spirit will jump onto it. So okay, he goes for an Exi. I'm like, okay, well, not really sure what I should be doing at this point. I just cycle once I have enough elixir. You see, I'm not cycling this too early, but I'll cycle a Firecracker same lane, and then my idea is to go for a Knight. So okay, I go for Skeletons to tank the Boss Bandit hit, and I go for High Knight. This is a really beautiful play. You can see that even if he used his Boss Bandit ability, it wouldn't dash because I played my Knight up high. And also it allowed me to basically isolate his Executioner. So then I go in because he just used a Boss Bandit and an Executioner. That's 10 elixir. So I just get a insane amount of damage here. In fact, so much damage I basically just take his tower. Now I have to defend. Okay, Firecracker, same placement again. I get a nice Earthquake value here because, I mean, although Earthquake Log doesn't kill Mother Witches anymore, it does more or less do it. And actually, my Firecracker puts it into range where it just dies. So, beautiful defense again. You can kind of see how I'm using my Elixir efficiently. I'm splitting up his attack and not letting him... This is the key thing with Hog, is that you just don't want to let your opponent build up massive pushes. Again, look at this Tesla placement. It's just a middle Tesla placement. This is a rule you guys can follow in a lot of your matchups. This is like the default Tesla placement. This is in Fireball range. If you play it 1 tile higher, it's in anti-Fireball range. I made a Tesla guide if you guys want to learn all the Tesla placements. It's not very long, it's like 10 minutes, and you can learn everything there is to know about the Tesla. But again, notice I use Skeletons just to stop the Boss Bandit from dashing. I'm stacking Teslas because Teslas are my DPS, and he's got a lot of like tanky troops, so I need a lot of damage, but he's got a lot of health on his side. Beautiful Log, beautiful Firecracker. Again, that same placement, this time with Skeletons. Get a Firecracker. I kind of want to protect it, so I go for a Knight. Don't manage to protect it, unfortunately, but either way, my Knight will do good work against his Prince. I get an Ice Spirit, and I don't even know how this Prince dashed onto my Tesla. It doesn't really matter, there's 8 seconds left. You can see I'm getting a Firecracker, then Skeletons just to distract, and I mean, this is one of those really tricky matchups that we made look like it's very, very easy. For game 7, we've got a really interesting matchup against probably one of the most popular new decks in the game. It's the Skeleton King Hyperbait deck where they've got Bush, Dark Goblin, Double Spirit. He gives me way too much value here, so I think he doesn't maybe realize I've got EQ, and so I get a really nice EQ value, and at the same time I get a lot of early hog damage. In this matchup, there's a few tips I want to give, and I know a lot of you guys are losing to this. So my biggest initial first tip is that you actually want to start using your Earthquake in general when you can against their bushes. So when they go bush at the bridge, just Earthquake it. Save your log. Here I didn't have it in cycle, but you can see, okay, I get a log down and everything's fine. But you don't, in general, you don't cycle your log against the bush. Cycle your Earthquake, let it die, and then you can like stack. Oh, that's tip number 2, is stack your Teslas. Make sure, or your building, it doesn't even matter what your building is, just stack your building. Here, I'm just cycling cards. Again, this is one of those matchups where it's very easy for you to get damage, it's very hard for you to defend. They can apply a lot of pressure, and the key is just not to crumble under the pressure, because they can apply a lot of pressure. And so, if you can just keep up with their attack, then you'll be fine. Here, like, I was just too slow, you know, his stupid Dark Goblin got damage on my tower, but I'm still up 1,000. Skeletons at the bridge, that applies pressure. If I'm being honest, I learned from this matchup, this game, that, okay, I shouldn't even be doing this. Like, Skeletons at the bridge, you should just be playing defensively in single, right? Like, I got punished for it here. I should realistically just be not cycling, just reacting to what he's doing till I get to double elixir, because in single, they have the advantage. Remember, generally, the decks with the cheaper cycles have an advantage in single elixir, and the double elixirs for heavier decks. I wouldn't exactly call Hog EQ a heavy deck, but in this specific matchup, it's got a slower cycle than my opponent. And so he's just out-cycling me and applied a lot of pressure. Here, I'm just defending, you know, Wall Breakers, so I play my building, which is a Tesla. Nice Tesla, notice how I played it low, so that in order for the Dark Goblin to activate the Tesla, it has to cross the bridge, so Tesla staying alive. And, you know, once you've defended, it's fine, you can just go for your Hog. I go for a log onto his Goblin gang, because I know he's got to do that, he doesn't have Dark Goblin in cycle. That's the other thing, is you want to make sure you understand how they can defend your Hog. So their main way of defending your Hogs is 2 things. First, they can go for a Goblin gang, that'll fully counter with the, what do you call it? With the Cannoneer. But also they go for Dark Goblin plus Log. That will also fully counter it. So making sure you know which one they're going to do, and you can predict it. Sometimes I even go for a prediction Log in the middle of the arena to hit their Dark Goblin. So here, beautiful Evo Tesla. Beautiful Evo Tesla. Firecracker's doing God's work. Again, there's a big weakness to their deck. They can't kill Evo Teslas. Low Skellies, you know, you can see how I'm playing these Skellies low, because that's sort of the placement so that the, oh, look at this. Beautiful Ice Spirit and then Log. That's an important interaction. If you go Log Ice Spirit or Ice Spirit Log, you'll fully counter and Evo Wall Breakers. We're clawing our way back into this match. We're going for these low knights and low troops against Dark Goblins so that it crosses the bridge. In this case, I do cycle a Log, just, you know, so that everything's out. I go for a Hog here because I know that he doesn't have Dark Goblin, and now, actually, he does have Dark Goblin, but I thought he didn't have Dark Goblin. That was miscalculation. But I thought that I could basically outcycle him. I Log, I'm going for my skeletons. And he does get a lot of damage. I miscalculated. That Hog that I played was kind of bad and I got punished for it. But, again, remember, like I said, they don't have a big spell. So, that's really important that you can basically always come back. Even if you have 100 HP on your tower, you can probably come back. If there's not enough time left. So, okay, I try quick dropping here. I go for my Log. I'm just basically trying to get as much pressure as possible. Hog doesn't get any damage, but you can see that I'm always thinking, okay, I can still come back. It's never too late. Never too late in this matchup. Have to Earthquake this on the right side. At least he gives me a lot of Earthquake value. Go for a Hog now. He goes for his Dark Goblin, goes for his Spirit. I still don't get any damage. But this game is still not over. Remember, they can't break through. I ignore those wall breakers, and I'm like, okay, now I have to go in. He doesn't have any offense. This has to be the time I go in. Right, I go Tesla, and I just Earthquake. I just have to hit something, try and get some damage. Still, I don't get damage, but I am Earthquaking. And all I need is one Hog hit, and I should be able to get it if I just keep applying pressure. Again, I go for a Hog, and then I go for an Earthquake onto his gang. I know he has to play gang. Earthquake, Hog gets a hit. That's GG's. That was it. That's all I was looking for this whole game, was trying to get that Hog hit. And don't get me wrong, I made many mistakes, and this is actually not too bad a matchup at all. This was just the first time I played it with this deck, and you can kind of see what I learned from it. So GG's. Up next, we've got a game against a Boss Bandit Bridgespam deck, and this is, once again, one of those really devilish matchups where it's kind of like, WTF is this guy playing? It's just ultimate brain rot Bridgespam, but you can beat it, even though it's very tough, so I'll show you guys how. So, I go for a Hog, I get some damage on the tower, I go for a Log, and then I'm thinking, okay, I'm just gonna go for a Knight, you know, easy peasy. Here's my Knight. Holy lag, bro. Holy lag. I mean, I also should have gone Ice Spirit. I was honestly too much in ore at this point. Should have gone for an Ice Spirit to mitigate some of that damage, but anyway, lag is kind of part of the Clash Royale experience, so let's see how we come back from it. Unfortunately, the start to this game is... it's not so good. So here, I don't go for a Firecracker, and that's kind of important to note out. I didn't go for a Firecracker because whilst the Cannon Cart is dealing with my Knight, the Firecracker would have just gotten to the bridge, and then I'd have to try and protect it at the bridge, which I can't do. So it just wouldn't be worth it. So I just go for Skeletons. I go for Hog opposite lane, and here I do mess up a little bit. So I go for a Firecracker, that's fine. I go for this Knight, but the problem with this Knight is that the Ghost is going to go around the Boss Bandit. It's not going to go to my Knight. So I should have played the Knight a tile higher so that the Ghost went, so both the troops went to it. I get a Log down, but even the Log is like, oh man, that hurts. That hurt. That's a lot of damage. But I'm still paying attention, right? I'm immediately going for a Hog. It's important to make sure that you're keeping track that, look, his Boss Bandit's out of cycle, and his Ghost, he just went for his offensive. Now it's time for me to go for my offensive. So I go for Skeletons just to bring the Ghost to the middle. I mean, I would have liked for that Cannon Cart to cross the bridge, but really what I was trying to get to is my Knight. My Knight will deal with the Ghost along with the Firecracker, but it'll also buy me enough time so that my tower can take out the Cannon Cart. So okay, things are bad, but we can still win. That's kind of what I'm thinking, is that, again, Bridgespam decks don't typically run big spells. So he gets King Tower, I cycle a Tesla, but I have to protect it with Skeletons. I'm lagging, bro. It's like triggering as hell, but unfortunately I couldn't get my Skeletons down in time. He goes for his Battle Ram, but it's a really bad Battle Ram because my Tesla's still alive. So 2 Elixir Log will just counter it. Boss Bandit's out of cycle, and now I'm like, okay, let's go for a Hog. Let's get some damage. Very important not to go for my Firecracker on offense. Why? Because it's very hard for me to defend his bushes, actually. It's not hard for me to get damage. And so I need to prioritize my Firecracker on defense. So Firecracker, he gets a shot. Get to 2 shots, really, really nice. I try getting this Ice Spirit just to stop his Ghost from getting too much damage. I'm back to another Tesla. Nice little Evo Tesla pulse, that was nice. And overall, you know, we've managed to split his damage and we're not too far away from coming back. Like I said, you can always come back against Bridgespam. I cycle an Earthquake. Now this is important, it's an important transition in the game, but I'm now like, okay, getting hogs to the towers is going to be very difficult. I'm just going to start Earthquake cycling and only go for hog if I can punish the cycle. So, beautiful set of skeletons to tank the boss bandit hit. Then I go for a knight to deal with the ghost, but also you can see the knight placement also helped out against the boss bandit. At the same time, my Firecracker is doing amazingly. Got my Evo Tesla back. Here we go. I've got 2 Firecrackers because he's being so aggressive this whole time. I'm stacking crackers. First I go for a knight just to make sure I can try and protect my Firecrackers. Doesn't work out because he's got Barb Barrel, but at least now I have something tanky for my hog. My hog gets a hit, and good. So I get another Earthquake down. We actually have the lead. Can you imagine after that horrendous start that I actually have a lead? Important Ice Spirit placement. It's a really nice Ice Spirit against Bandit and Cannon Cart. Go for a Tesla, my Firecracker. I'm overprotecting as much as possible because if I can keep my Firecracker alive, should be in good shape. He doesn't have his boss bandit in cycle, so I go for a log thinking he's going to go for like Ghost plus Cannon Cart, but he didn't have it in cycle. My hog takes the tower down. EQ, GG's. For the 9th game, I'm going to be covering a Mortar Bait matchup, and this is also quite tricky. The most important thing in this matchup is just to make sure... Oh my holy fat finger. You guys can see that I misclicked, but then I redeemed myself with this beautiful King Tower activation off of the Mortar. But the most important thing in this matchup is to make sure you keep track of when they have their Evo Mortar, because Evo Mortar is what will ruin you. So if you're keeping track and you know when they have the Evo Mortar, and by doing that what I mean is don't waste your Earthquake onto like a bait card or something. You want to ideally just go for like log EQ plus some like Ice Spirit in order to deal with Evo Mortar. So I went really aggressive, right? I knew that I outcycled him, and he went for, even after outcycling him, he still went for this kind of bad, what do you call it, skeleton barrel. So I thought, okay, I can punish him. I go for an Ice Spirit to tank the shot. Ice Spirit skillies, if you didn't know, can counter a cannon cart. Just like this. So, very nice. Good defense. We have a nice little lead at the start, and I'm kind of just waiting to see what he wants to do. I know he's got Mortar in cycle. If I go for a hog, he's going to Mortar. If I go for a knight in the back, that would be kind of bad, because then he could go for a Mortar, but since he went for a Skeleton King, then I go for my knight. But if I went knight in the back, he could Mortar the bridge, and that would be a little bit awkward to defend. Important to note here, Firecracker can kill a skeleton barrel, and it can survive if you play it in the right placement. That's not the correct placement. But here I'm just hovering my logs. I know he's going to ability. I log, I just Ice Spirit. Unfortunately, there was a skeleton alive. Didn't even need the Ice Spirit, actually. But good defense overall. You know, we still are up 500, and things are looking pretty good for now. We need to make sure that we're keeping track of when you have his Mortar and Evo Mortar in cycle. And actually, if you keep track, he's already cycled 2 Mortars, so I know his next Mortar is Evo. I go really aggressive for this damage because he's got arrows, right? And actually, as it turns out, he doesn't have Evo Mortar, which is what I was so confused, because this whole time when I was playing, I was like, oh, he's got Evo Mortar, because who plays this deck without Evo Mortar? But he didn't have Evo Mortar in cycle, so that works out. Nice Ice Spirit down low will fully counter an Ice Wizard, and now we've outcycled him, so we go again aggressive. I just go for my... Well, I'm waiting to Earthquake his Goblin Gang, but plays it so late. Firecracker plus little Ice Spirit. I mean, we do take some damage, but Firecracker's a Firecracker. Unfortunately, I was not paying attention, and we do take a little bit of Evo Mortar chip. He gets 2 hits, which is not ideal, and then he also manages to kill off my Firecracker. If I was playing perfectly, I wouldn't have allowed either of those things to happen, but we're still up 1,000, and the fact he doesn't have Evo Mortar makes my life pretty comfortable, if I'm being honest. Not cycling my Earthquake, like I'm just being careful. I'm just trying to get back to my Firecrackers and outcycle him. This Knight is important because that Knight placement will tank for the Mortar, because it's still on the inside. That's an important thing to know as to why I went for that. Then just go for a Tesla just to snipe it off. This game, by the way, gets stupidly close, and you're going to see exactly what happens. So I'm just cycling cards. He goes for this at the bridge, so I have to log back to my firecracker. That should help. Go for a Tesla to snipe off everything. This is nice earthquake value. Like, why would I not earthquake? It kills off his whole goblin gang, 3 for 3 trade, and I get damage. Yippee. Unfortunately, he's got a lot of spam coming my way, so I've got a log. He's got this cannon cart. Cannon cart is basically usually their MVP. It's the hardest card for you to deal with. Nice knight. Look, the knight lines everything up for my firecracker. Here, I don't go for my earthquake because I'm scared of his mortar, but I should have gone for an earthquake because now he just gets so much damage. I managed to logs and reset his cannon cart, but now we're down 600. I did not play this perfectly by any means, but you can see that I'm still being aggressive. It's important to be aggressive and get that firecracker damage because that's kind of the point, that they're just going to arrows your firecracker anyway, so you might as well get the damage. So nice firecracker hit. I'm just cycling stuff, and look at this massive defense. Log, we got an Evo Tesla. Evo Tesla is so nice in this matchup, but he's got 2 cannon carts down. My firecracker's alive, but I'm still down, so I know I need to earthquake cycle him because he's got arrows, he doesn't have anything else, and if I can just EQ cycle him, I can still win this. 30 seconds left. This is intense. Split skellies, I go knight up high. I'm playing a lot of stuff up high so he doesn't get value with his arrows. Firecracker I've stacked back. I had to go for a log, a knight, and this is getting close. This is getting close. I have to cycle an earthquake, so I need to get back to another one. There's 10 seconds left. And now I'm like, okay, I need to log, need to cycle. Skeletons. EQ. This is close. 3, 2, 1. Look at that. I won by 1 HP. This game was insane. Like, I made quite a lot of mistakes. It shouldn't really have been that close. But to win by 1 HP is crazy. For the 10th matchup, I'm going to be playing against Log Bait, and I think this is a matchup that I got quite a lot of messages in the YouTube comments asking me to cover Log Bait. So, unfortunately, I just haven't been playing a lot of Log Bait on ladder, but finally there's a game I can show you guys, and this was actually a very, very nice game. So he's got Inferno Tower, and I've heard a lot of people in my comments and just generally saying that Inferno Tower is really bad for Hog. Actually, quite the contrary. If they have Inferno Tower, you should be happy, because Inferno Tower is a 5 elixir building. You're playing a cycle deck. The strategy is so simple to win these matchups. That's why when people lose it, it's actually quite a good thing if you're losing it, because it's a very simple fix in order to start winning against Log Bait. Basically, they have a 5 elixir building. The strategy is you go for a Hog, and you know that they're going to go for an Inferno. Then your next strategy is, okay, I got to outcycle them, so I have to try and get back to my Hog before they get back to their Inferno, or more importantly, before they have Elixir for their Inferno, because it's a 5 elixir building. And then you know they're going to go most likely Goblin Gang, and you can just prediction log and win. That's like the matchup strategy to a T. Now they can also rocket. Good players know that they have to rocket on defense. If they keep rocketing on defense, they're never going to be able to break through, and you just EQ cycling will get a win. So no matter what they do, you're always going to have some way of winning. There's another thing, there are a lot of different ways you can counter a Goblin Barrel. Not fully counter, but counter. You can fully counter with Firecracker plus Skeletons, obviously with the log. You can also fully counter with Skeletons plus Ice Spirit, but that is just extremely difficult to pull off. But in general, okay, you can see he made a bad play. And here I go for prediction log, hoping he's going to go for his Goblin Gang. Goes for a Knight, but usually, by the way, when they make a mistake and you get your Hog to the tower, you kind of need to go all in and make sure you double down on punishing them. Like there I went for a log just in case, because it's really important that I maximize the amount of damage that I get, because I'm not going to be able to break through too many times. So this was good defense. He goes for his Evo barrel, but I also get my Evo Cracker. And you can see that, look, I didn't use log, but I still got really good value on my defense. Hog on the left side, because if he goes for an Inferno in the middle, my Firecracker will hit it, as it does. Hog breaks through, he has to go for a Knight, and Hog gets damaged. That was all because I went for a Hog when I had an Evo Cracker. Here I'm just protecting my Cracker with my Knight. I'm actually going to log. In this matchup, you want to just make sure that you're getting the most value from your cards. It's not so much about how well necessarily you are defending with no damage, because remember, Clash Royale isn't a game of can I defend with no damage, it's can I get more damage than they before the end of the game. That's basically how you win, right? Firecracker does get a shot, which was nice, and then he just kind of panics and messes up. You can see the strategy, there's just outcycle his Inferno and then just punish him. If not prediction log, by the way, you can also go for Hog plus Firecracker at the bridge if you want to save your log. It's quite a simple matchup to win, so GG's and nice game. The next matchup that I'm going to be covering is against Lava Miner Flying Machine, and this is why I recommend this deck. Because you got the Tesla, it makes your life a lot easier, and this matchup that would more or less be impossible otherwise, well, now you can actually beat. So I go for a Hog, he goes for Barbarians, and I respond just with a Firecracker at the bridge, just to get some damage. And at this point, I probably should know he's running Lava, but honestly, I wasn't really focusing. I was like, oh, okay, now he's got Lava. It didn't really occur to me. So I'm just cycling some cards and applying pressure. He dropped a 7 Elixir card on the opposite lane. If I just do nothing and play passive, he's just going to overwhelm me. I can't fully defend a Lava push. So here I'm like, okay, still not sure what to do. I don't want the Flying Machine to attack my my Hog Rider, so I actually go Hog in the back. And I'm just delaying, because basically what I'm thinking is that, look, I can kite this Phoenix, and I'm just going to get a Tesla directly onto this Flying Machine. It's kind of unorthodox defense, but you kind of sometimes have to do defense in this kind of way if you want to defend these really weird lava pushes. So Knight retargeted the miner, Tesla's cleaning up, and we're actually ahead by 400. So you can kind of see my thought process behind it. The reason I didn't go for a Hog at the bridge is because I really didn't want the Flying Machine to retarget for any reason onto the Hog. I needed that Hog to get the most damage. So I played it in the back, then we kited the Phoenix, and then we went directly and sniped the Flying Machine first. So I go for a Firecracker here because I know he's probably going to spell it or something, or like even if he goes for his Flying Machine, at least I'm getting Elixir out. I just cycle my Skeletons, and then I just go for a Hog. Hog in the right lane because I already know I can take his left lane. I just want to get his cards out. So we force the Barbarians out. We are down some Elixir, but honestly not a big deal. Look at this Firecracker. It's basically going to kite these Barbs. Actually don't even think I needed that Ice Spirit. Probably could have just used it onto the miner. But really I'm just trying to apply some split lane pressure. When you're playing against Lava, what you need to be focusing on is what their ground cards are. That should be what you're thinking about in your mind. Now this was a bit of a surprise. I was not at all expecting him to be running this Goblin Machine, or whatever, Goblin Demolisher. I log early just so that my tower can take it out before it explodes on my tower. And here he makes a pretty big mistake, and I recognize this. He goes all in basically on this left lane. And at this point I'm already kind of thinking, well, is that really the play? Because I'm not so sure he can like guarantee and take my tower. So he keeps going all in. Look at this Firecracker. It kind of lines up with everything. I'm just delaying, I'm stalling. I have a Knight in that right lane just to force out some extra Elixir. Go for my Tesla, it cleans everything up, and now he realizes he only has 16 seconds. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can defend, we should be good. I go for a high Knight, Firecracker, Goblin Demolisher does not get to my tower. Unfortunately, I'm late with the Ice Spirit, so I kind of panicked here for a second. I go Skeleton's Log just to retarget EQ just to take the tower, and just like that, we actually win the game. So, good heads-up plays. The next matchup that I'm going to be covering is against PigZQ, and we're going to be covering another game this time, because PigZQ is a deck that's going to be in the game for quite a long time, and the approach to beating it is quite methodical, so I want you guys to kind of understand what it is that I'm doing. So I go for a Hog. The reason I logged, by the way, there is because he played his cannon one tile higher than he's meant to, which means that his other tower wouldn't hit my Hog, and actually if you log and they do nothing, your Hog gets a hit. So that forced out a log from my opponent in response, and now I'm kind of like, okay, one thing at a time. He cycles an Earthquake, so I cycle an Earthquake. I'm cycling it behind the tower so that if he plays anything behind his King Tower, it'll hit that. You can see I'm like getting ready in case he goes for pigs, and okay, he goes Queen in the back, so I cycle a Firecracker. Firecracker because it's going to basically force him to go for something to block the Queen, or it's going to force him to use his ability early. So here I'm just playing troops in front. I get my high Tesla, I get a lockdown, and yeah, my defense is pretty solid at the moment. I go for a Knight just because, look, I know he's going to pop that Queen ability, but if I go for a Knight, you know, I caught him lacking. We managed to stop him from popping the Queen ability in time, and now he has to spend Elixir. So he went for 2 Elixir, and then he also went for 2 more Elixir. That's 4 Elixir, and then also the Queen. So I just go Hog plus Prediction EQ, because he doesn't have Cycle cards, so he can't Cannon Trick, and he also has no Elixir. Look at this. If you quick drop Ice Spirit Skeletons, you can stop the Queen from getting an ability, which is why good players will know that they should either Prediction Log or pop that Queen even before it reaches the bridge to stop that exact play. But so far, we've done a beautiful job of punishing him, and we are up a Hog hit. And look, you can see how I knew his cycle, and I was hovering my Tesla in the correct position. Perfect Firecracker placement just to hit all of the pigs. And we're chilling. He doesn't have his win condition in cycle. He doesn't have, you know, a queen for 3-card cycle at the moment. I go for a log here because if he went for skeletons or something directly onto the firecracker, then the prediction log would hit it. My firecracker would lock on the tower. Just things like these kind of plays, I was gonna do cycle log anyway, so I might as well cycle it a bit earlier and stop him. Like, again, remember, make life as difficult as you can for your opponent. That is part of the game. Here I go for a hog because if he goes for an EQ, or rather whilst I'm defending, you can see that whilst I'm defending, I'm getting back to another hog rider. Because he's got 3-card cycle, it's going to be difficult for me to outcycle him. But here, you see, I go for my knight. I don't get a chance to outcycle him because this whole time he has 3-card cycle. So really what it comes down to is stacking firecrackers is going to be your main objective, because you can't out-earthquake cycle them because they have 3-card cycle, and you also can't try and break through with your hog rider because of, you know, they can cannon trick and stuff like that. So here I'm playing a bunch of cards just in case he plays anything at the bridge. He went queen in the back, so I go for a hog, and this is really important. I go for my firecracker. The reason why the firecracker is important is because I need to start stacking firecrackers and not just cycling earthquakes, because firecracker is the thing that will apply the most pressure in this matchup for him. He doesn't have a good way of killing firecracker on my side of the bridge. He can delivery it or whatever when it's on his side, but you can see that here he went for a really bad set of pigs. My firecracker is still alive. I used earthquake, I'm just keeping it alive. Firecracker gets a shot on the tower. You can see that because I cycled that firecracker early, I mean, how much value did that one Evo firecracker give me? So here, look, I instantly go for a hog, and then I go for another firecracker. You see? He goes for a beautiful Evo cannon. In fairness to him, if he played it at the bridge, the firecracker wouldn't have gotten hit by the barrage. But since he played it there, it did get hit. So well played by him. I go for a knight just to protect my Tesla and stall, because the Tesla will also hit the queen, you know, if nothing's there. There, targeted onto the queen, good for me. Goes for another set of pigs. I have to go firecracker, I have to go log, because I earthquake cycled. We do take a little bit of piggy nibbles, which is unfortunate, but okay, we're down only 100 with a minute left. Go for a hog just for pressure. I'm going for earthquake just for any cannon. Goes for a low cannon. There's a delivery. I go for a firecracker. Just if I was quicker, maybe I could have got damage on the tower, but really I'm just trying to apply pressure. Here, again, I need to just be aggressive. If I'm passive and I try like stacking troops, there's only 43 seconds left, have to get damage, and he messes up his cannon because he went queen in the back at the same time I went for a hog. He like couldn't time it right, and we applied enough pressure, made him crack, and now we just got to defend and not choke. Firecracker gets a hit on the tower, we earthquake as well. Firecracker gets another hit. You can see how I'm punishing him. As soon as he made a mistake, I'm punishing him as much as possible. His cannon's now out of cycle, so I go for a hog. So everything there, just all the pressure, eventually we made him crack and we won the game. The next game is yet another matchup that I've really wanted to cover. It's a giant boss bandit deck, and it's one of those matchups where, again, I think a lot of players really struggle on how do you defend the boss bandit. The boss bandit is broken, and don't get me wrong, it absolutely is. But you're going to see sort of how you can deal with it and what the correct strategy is. So this is a good example. Here, I want to be defending the boss bandit on my side of the bridge. I know that I can't deal with this if it's on his side, right? So I just let my firecracker die. I got my Tesla, it's got DPS. I've got my knight, which is good for tanking. You know, I'm sort of just Ice Spirit just to jump on everything. I get another knight down. See, I cycled 2 knights and I was very defensive. Okay, also skeletons to tank for the boss bandit dash. But you can see how I basically let that firecracker die as soon as I saw the boss bandit, because I know that I have to defend on my side. Now he just went for rage, goblin machine, boss. Basically the reason I went in here is because he didn't have boss bandit in cycle, and he doesn't have his goblin machine in cycle. And both of those are really good hog counters because they do a lot of damage. So I thought, okay, what are the chances that he has another high damage troop? Probably not that high. Look at this, beautiful Ice Spirit plus Firecracker, hits both of them and stuns them both. I just want you guys to pay attention to that set of that like kind of defensive sequence that I just did. You know, that Firecracker to the side and playing stuff at the bridge. That whole alignment is a very common alignment that you do with Hoggy Q. Get you loads of damage. He messes up his King Tower activation. I actually get a Firecracker hit, which is very, very nice. And then as per usual, Tesla first, right? So I'm going to go for my Tesla first, and I'm not going to play anything else until he plays something, right? If he's not going to play anything, I don't need to go skeleton. In my head, I was like, I'm going to go skeletons. And I remember telling myself, well, what's the point? He's not going for anything. And actually, skeletons are really important for the boss bandit defense. So, okay, he goes for a boss bandit. I'll just cycle a Firecracker. Now I can use those skeletons, which I didn't waste. I can play them in the middle so both towers are hitting it. I can get a knight down as well. It's honestly not a big deal if if, you know, they use their Goblin Curse and kill off your Evo Firecracker, because now I can just go for a hog if I need to. But you'll notice how here it's double Elixir, and I know if I go for a hog, he's already got a flying, he's already got this Goblin machine, I'm gonna have a massive defense on my hands, so I'd rather just cycle a Tesla. Okay, in fairness, I was hoping the Tesla would stay alive. It would have been a good play if the Tesla stayed alive, but it died to the stupid rocket, which, bit of a misplay, I guess. So here we go. Big defense now. I got skeletons in front just to tank the boss bandit dash. Look at the Ice Spirit. Hits everything and my Firecracker. Remember that whole Firecracker sequence I did before? The placements are the same, so I'm still doing the same thing. Firecracker's getting crazy amounts of value. And everything's dead, you know. Tesla, only damage we took is a little bit of Goblin Curse damage from the Goblin, but we get so much more in return. I get a Firecracker for bridge. He does manage to block it, so well played to him. I try protecting it, but honestly I hate this stupid card, this Goblin machine. Look at this. This is a really interesting play. I go for a hog just to buy time for my troops, right? My Tesla and stuff, just to pull everything back, get a nice Ice Spirit down, skeletons, get low Knight. We do take some damage here, so I log, right, and he's got this boss bandit. I get a Firecracker down, got an Ice Spirit. He does get damage, uses his ability, I block it, skeletons to catch. Does get some damage, but we're completely fine. You are going to probably take some damage in this matchup. To not take any damage is basically impossible, but it's not about not taking damage. So here I went for a hog because his Dagger Duchess had nothing left. I knew I had to go guards, so I went for a hog. It's in Earthquake range. Beautiful game all around, basically no mistakes, and yeah, very nice. Again, up next, we've got a game against Elixir Golem, and I'm including this again because it's a very tricky matchup. It's a common matchup that you'll play, and I think it's quite an instructive game, this one that I played. So I go for a hog, he's got Cannoneer, so I was thinking Mortar Bait or something, or like some heavy deck, and then he goes for his E-Drag, so at this point I basically already know he's running Elixir Golem, because these kind of cards aren't too popular in any other deck. Go for a Knight just to tank, and you can see I'm playing quite passively. I'm not really being too aggressive. I'm sort of just waiting to see what he wants to do. I'm waiting, and then he's like, okay, he's not going to do anything, so he goes for Rage. I go for an Ice Spirit, because that will connect on the tower unless he does anything. Okay, Ice Spirit connects, we have a nice lead, and there he goes for his Elixir Golem. So as soon as he goes for his Elixir Golem, I go for a hog opposite lane, and it's important to note that I only did that because I'm not down Elixir. If I was down Elixir, even 1 or 2 Elixir, I would never do that, especially in single, because it's very hard to defend these pushes. So especially, look, he's got arrows, and this is like one of those matchups I hear a lot of people be like, how do you win? You know, they've got arrows for my Firecracker, and it's impossible. Well, you'll see. So you can see how here I brought everything together. Ice Spirit jumps onto all the bats. Skeletons just to distract basically the Night Witch whilst I get to my Evo Cracker. And my Evo Cracker is just going to do loads and loads of damage once we kill basically all of his support troops. So that was basically flawless defense. We took damage, but that was expected. You can't defend that flawlessly. This is really instructive. Why did I go in on the left side? If I just left that Firecracker to die, he wouldn't have spent any Elixir. In this case, I got his Lightning out of cycle, got his Skeletons out of cycle, made him spend 7 Elixir, and now my Firecracker didn't go to waste, right? So now I forced out Elixir by spending Elixir, and I've progressed my cycle, right? We got another hog, cycle another Knight. That's why I went in. Normally, if you just ignore it, if I went in on the right side, well, my Firecracker would get no value. He could defend it pretty cheaply. So, okay, he goes in for his massive Elixir Golem push. Big thing to note, I'm cycling my Firecrackers first because he's going to go for arrows, and I'm going to, like, right now try and cycle back to another one. So I'm cycling back, I'm cycling an Ice Spirit just for the bats, skeletons. We've got another Firecracker. He gets a nice Lightning. I log the right side because he's got Evo Skellies. I Earthquake. I probably should have Earthquaked the right side, but anyway, I use my Evo Tesla, because I think I should have Earthquaked the right side, Evo Tesla the left. That probably would have been better. But remember, they don't have a big spell, so even though I took damage from that, I'm still up. So I go for, look at this Firecracker placement. There's a Skelly, so I go for it just so I get a lineup. Very nice, very nice. He has to Lightning on defense, and it's important here that, look, I actually defend my Firecracker. You don't want to let it die. Your Evo Firecracker is so powerful. Unfortunately, it does still die, but at least in concept, you don't want it to. I go for a hog, I go for a log. My hog gets a hit, my hog gets 2 hits, and that's GG's. So remember that even though you take some damage, it's very easy for you to get damage in return. Okay, game number 15. This is a highly awaited one, I'm sure. Mega Knight Ram Rider. I think people generally struggle with Mega Knight, and that is the biggest reason why I can't recommend this deck enough if you're in mid ladder. It's so simple to play against Mega Knight with this deck. You literally just go for a Tesla, play a Knight up high, and have a Firecracker on the field, and that's the defense. Even against an Evo Mega Knight push, you just, once it knocks the Knight back, you just go for Skellies. Like, the whole defensive sequence with this is actually very simple when you're playing against Mega Knight. So here he gets a very nice play. I go for a Tesla and I go for Skellies up high. I normally don't go for Skellies there, but for some reason I was just a bit slow to react, so I did that and he actually prediction zapped me. So my Tesla dies, I have to go Ice Spirit. Very, very nice prediction zap by him. But you can see that, okay, he's gone Prince and Ram Rider. I pretty much already know this is Mega Knight. Could maybe be Pekka, but like 99% it's Mega Knight. Have to try and get back to my Tesla. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get King Tower, but you can see here I don't let his Firecracker kill mine. I protect my... Never mind. I don't know, like I literally was so confused when that happened. I don't understand how my Firecracker didn't kill his. That was like some Matrix level avoidance by his Firecracker, but anyway, he spent a 5 Elixir card in single, so I go Hog opposite lane. Remember, it's more than 4 Elixir, so that's the rule. Get my Knight down. Nice defense. We do get a Hog hit, which is nice. And I'm sort of just resetting. Again, you don't want to be too aggressive. When you're playing against Prince decks, and like the heavier their deck is, the less aggressive you kind of want to be, but the more you want to be able to punish them. So if they make a bad play, punish hard. But if they're just cycling cards, you can't be too aggressive, otherwise the counter push is going to be too much. So here he went for Ram Rider and Prince. I'm like, okay, well, everything survived, so I can just go for a Hog with my Firecracker. Hog gets damage because he doesn't have his Prince in cycle, right? Doesn't have that high DPS troop. He also has NATO, so in theory this should be a really easy matchup for him, but you know, we're playing really well. I dropped the little GGs, just bit of BM there, and I'm cycling log. And at this point I know that if I want to win the matchup, I probably should just EQ cycle. There's his first Mega Knight of the game. That's probably a big mistake from him, is waiting 2.5 minutes to cycle his first Mega Knight. But finally it appears. I get my Firecracker, I go Ice Spirit, look at the Ice Spirit, hits everything. I go for a log just to slow the Ram Rider down. I even go for an Earthquake, but honestly, my Evo Firecracker just did like so much damage I didn't even need that Earthquake. If it wasn't an Evo Cracker, I would need it. But here, look at that, King Tower off with the Firecracker, nice. Oh, his Firecrackers are doing something else this game. I don't know why that Firecracker didn't die. But again, look, I cycle a Tesla, I'm just getting ready to defend. I don't want to be too aggressive. Now here, going for a Hog would be kind of pointless. I protect my Tesla first. Going for a Hog is useless. I'm never going to break through, so I'm just going to EQ cycle. And we're going to get another Tesla down. We're going to get another Firecracker down before we play the cycle cards. And look at that. We went Firecracker, then cycle cards. Important. I'm playing side cards up high. Unfortunately, that XE does line up with my tower. But again, we have such a big lead, it's just important not to throw the game, and the only way I can throw it is if I don't spell cycle. So here I even go EQ on defense, mainly because of this Prince. My cycle was a bit awkward, and so I just used an Earthquake, slow everything down, easy defense, you know? Sometimes you got to remember that you don't have to win the game by just getting a Hog to the tower. I'll win the game in 1.5 minutes regardless, so really all I have to do is just defend. I think this is one of Mo Light's biggest strengths, is that he's really solid with his defense. In this case, I go for a Hog, just trying to, because I didn't have a tank basically, so I was trying to use the Hog as a tank. Hog does get a hit. We're very close. Go for either Tesla up high, just to slow everything down. Ice Spirit, and again, I'm not going for a Hog at 0. I'm gonna chill. You know, he's got Cannoneer, he's got Prince, he's got Mega Knight. That's how you lose against Mega Knight, is if you go for these bad Hogs. So I let the Mega Knight walk. I'm just slowing it down. I log. Get another test. I'm not even EQing right now, I'm just defending. Probably could have EQ'd whilst doing all of this, but I'm like, I'm just gonna defend so I don't choke. This is like the safest strategy, right? It's like an anti-choke strategy. Go for another Tesla, and now I'm like, okay, that's an EQ range. GG's. Beautiful defense and beautiful game. For game number 16, I'm going to be covering 3 Musketeers matchup. This is actually quite a difficult matchup, especially because it gets very difficult to defend these E-Barbs, Rage, Ghosts, Evo Knight, 3 Musketeers. Like all of these cards together become very, very difficult the longer the game goes on. I do misclick my Tesla here, but you can see how I'm pulling everything to the middle so that my Tesla can DPS. I get a beautiful log value on everything. Tesla, I have to go for an Ice Spirit just to activate the Tesla. off the Ghost, and everything's pretty good. So at this point, I kind of already know it's 3M. I actually know this guy's clan, Freestyle 3M clan, so I kind of had a feeling already before the game started, but now I know for sure he's playing 3 Musketeers. And the question is which variation. Here I was kind of caught sleeping. Didn't even expect him to go Warbreaker, so I just had to quickly play a Tesla. But the matchup strategy for this is really going to be stacking firecrackers and protecting them. So he goes for his what do you call it? He goes for his pump, and I go for this hog. Ideally, I would have gone for that hog quicker, and I think because a pump is 6 elixir, if I went for hog instantly, he'd need 2 elixir before he get back to his E-barbs. I was just too slow. I actually could have gotten my hog to get at least 1 hog hit on the tower, but I was just too slow. And I EQ'd first, which probably wasn't great. But we did defend, quite simple defense. You can see that firecracker placement in the middle, 5 tiles from the bridge in the middle. That's the default way you want to like kite troops and defend. Goes for a knight, so I'm like, okay, we can just log the right side, left side wall breakers. We'll go for a knight, ice spirit just to get rid of the heal spirit. Goes for a kind of a really bad ghost. If you went for it in the opposite lane, it would be trickier, especially with the heal spirit, because I don't have a tank. But since he wastes his ghost, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of gives me free reign to go for a hog. I go for a hog. I also go for a firecracker because I know he's going to go E-barbs. And since he doesn't have a range troop, like his only range troop would be Ghost, but he already used it. Sorry, Ghost isn't a range troop, but you know what I mean. Like a troop that can directly just beeline to my firecracker. And then his other range troop is 3M, which, you know, obviously he's not going to use his 3M. He doesn't have elixir for it. Anyway, nice Evo Tesla, good defense. Since he messed up his Ghost, we're going to punish him by going for a hog. We still have some HP on our knight. And this is sort of the first point in the game where you kind of need to point something out, is that whenever they go for 3M in the back, you usually EQ, as long as you're not down too much elixir, you EQ 2 of the Musketeers. Beautiful firecracker on the right side, so now I can basically ignore it, and I can also try and pull the firecracker to the middle. That's something you can see that I'm doing here. Go for a low log, nice ice spirit, and we basically just defended everything. You know, we're going to take, okay, 1 or 2 E-barb hits, but overall, really, really good defense, like almost flawless defense. So again, he goes 3M in the back split. So I earthquake 2 of the Musketeers, and then I just go for my firecracker first. Remember, we want to stack firecrackers. Knight for the Ghost, and I get a Tesla down. Okay, first I log just to make sure this Ghost dies. I use skeletons to protect the firecracker, just so that these Musketeers are basically one shot. And you can still see my firecracker still alive. I was just a bit too slow cycling cards, otherwise I could have got the skeletons down before the Musk and the E-barb locked onto my tower. A lot of this matchup is speed, which I didn't execute as well as I should have. Here, nice earthquake, I hit all of the 3 Musketeers. We get 2 hog hits with the ice spirit, which is nice. But a lot of it is just how fast can you accurately place your cards. That was something I didn't do as well as I could have in this matchup. So here, nice log, skeletons, ice spirit, just delaying whilst I get my firecracker on the other side. Knight up high. You can take some damage. That's another thing you really have to pay attention to, is what damage can I take. I know right now if I go for a hog, he's going to go for E-barbs, so there's no point. I'm just going to earthquake, get some earthquake chip. I need to go for a hog when I can, when I'm able to punish him. Right now I'm not able to punish him. So here he goes for a ghost, so I go for log, I go for firecracker. Firecracker cleans up, so nice log. Evo Tesla's putting in awesome work. Low log, he'll counter the Musketeer. Still, playing stuff up high, firecracker in the middle, Tesla off to the side, ice spirit up high. He just used his E-barbs. Okay, you gotta remember that that's his hog counter, so now I can go for a hog in the middle, and then I'm gonna log in case he plays anything, ghost or knight or whatever. Skeletons just to pull it back and just delay, earthquake, and remember, his best and only hog counter is E-barbs. We outcycled it, and we punished it. GG's. The next game that I'm going to be covering is against Bridgespam. Now this is the meta Bridgespam deck with Archer Queen, Barbs, Evo Battle Ram, all of that kind of stuff. So this is probably a matchup you will play quite a lot over the time that you play Clash Royale. And so it should be pretty instructive on how I actually beat it, because it can get overwhelming. Kind of like 3M, the split lane pressure can become very intense, and micro interactions are extremely important in this. So I go for skeletons just so that my knight keeps its HP, and I go for a high Tesla here because I kind of want that knight to come back. I want the knight to come back and just sort of, the more time I can keep my tank on my side, the bigger the push I can make it. So look, now I have a lot of elixir, right? I have loads of elixir. I just go for a log just because I know that this ghost is going to be a pain. So go for a log, I go for an Ice Spirit just so that it gets a hit. Goes for Prediction Snowball, but at this point I'm up quite a bit of Elixir because this guy is spending a lot and I was quite efficient with my defense. I go for a Hog. Thing is, even though I'm up, like look, I just lost what that was. I got a Hog here, which was nice, but you can see that how that Ghost didn't go to my Knight is beyond me. But you can see that I'm applying enough pressure so that when he goes for a Bandit, I can defend it in the cheapest way possible. I don't want to let him spend more Elixir, like supporting his Bandit, because then I have to spend more Elixir myself. If I apply pressure in the opposite lane and single when he went Bandit, that way when the Bandit crossed the bridge, I could just use Skeletons for 1 Elixir and get a +2 trade. So even though I got a negative trade for the Barbs, you know, he went Barbs for my Hog and Firecracker, just going for like Skeletons onto the Bandit was also like equally a good play. So I'm not really down too much Elixir. No point going for a Hog into a Queen, so I just decided, okay, let's I guess go opposite lane, but there's no point Firecrackering the bridge either, because 1 Firecracker hit on the tower is not worth like not being able to defend. So I go for this up high. Look at this Ice Spirit placement. It's a very important placement. Go for this, low Skeletons. Queen does get a small lock on my tower, but overall, given what we just had to defend, I'm in a pretty good position because now the counter push, we should be able to get some damage back. I go in, Knight, Hog, we log just because I want this Knight, the Ghost to die as soon as possible. I also managed to hit the Bandit. You can see how much I'm protecting my Firecracker, and I'm stacking them. Remember, they find it difficult to deal with Firecrackers other than using arrows. So if you can outcycle the arrows, so like there, he could only arrow 1 of my Firecrackers, the other one stayed alive. He went Queen here, so I instantly went to punish him in the left lane. Instantly, right? But I'm still not going for my Firecracker at the bridge because I need it for defense. It's so strong on defense. And so now we basically more or less tied the game up. I'm going to go in here. I go for a log as well in case he went for Barbarians. Just Firecracker shot plus Barbarians is basically going to melt them. Maybe could have Earthquaked there. I try protecting my Firecracker here, and we do manage to. So you can see that really protecting the Firecrackers is the most important thing, and now we've outcycled his Barbs. So really what you want to do when you're playing a matchup is keep track of what their Hog counters are. His Hog counter, his really only good Hog counter is Barbarians. Everything else, he'd have to go like Queen Snowball or Ghost Bandit Snowball. These are all like very expensive combinations, and often if they do that, you can just outcycle them and punish them in the opposite lane. So whenever he doesn't have Barbs, okay, that was a nice attempt at a prediction arrows. That would have gotten him a lot of damage. So here I just go for my high Tesla, just so that it's dealing damage to everything at the bridge. Because my Knight got stuck at the bridge dealing with his Ghost and Barbs, it basically turned into a bridge battle, which is why I decided, okay, I should probably play my Tesla at the bridge to try and win this bridge battle. He goes arrows, but again, doesn't have a good cycle. So I go for a Hog, go for an Ice Spirit, Knight is tanking. I go for an Earthquake now, just so if he goes for like Ghost or Bandit or whatever, I'll hit both of them. I'm just slowly chipping him out. But also I'm going for that Earthquake because I don't want to ruin my cycle. I don't want to, like now I want to cycle my Firecracker. I don't want to cycle it then, and then my Firecracker dies and now I have to defend this big push with no Firecracker. Again, you want, like the order in which you cycle cards is really important. So I go for a Hog here, and the reason I went for a Hog here is just to force Elixir out so that defending this Evo battle round would be easier. Beautiful Ice Spirit so that nothing dashed. I'm still playing stuff up high. I go for a Hog because he just used his Barb, so hopefully I can get some damage. At the same time, I'm just defending. Perfect defense. Log, Tesla, Ice Spirit. Hog gets to the tower. I go for another Firecracker and a Knight. Skeletons up high just to buy time for the Ghost. I log. And at this point, the left side is irrelevant, so really I can just Earthquake, and as long as I don't let anything get to the tower, that's GG's. So you can see how just keeping track of when he had Barbs in cycle and punishing him when he didn't, alongside protecting my Firecrackers. Very, very important to win this difficult matchup. For our 18th game, we're going to be covering Graveyard, and you know what they say, save the best till last. I go for a Hog here at the start of the game, and he goes for Witch plus Skeletons, so I already know exactly what he's playing within the first 15 seconds of the game, and very importantly, I protect my Firecracker. I keep my Firecracker alive, and he only really has 2 good ways of getting my Firecrackers off the board. One way is going for a Bar Barrel, and another way is going for just a Poison. He went for a Bar Barrel, but that allows me to protect it, and it's not a consistent way of dealing with Firecrackers. Here, I just keep applying pressure, you know, I kept my Firecracker alive, I got an Earthquake, and we get loads of damage. And the other way he can deal with my Firecrackers is with Poison, but in single Elixir, he doesn't have Elixir for that, and if he does, I would just punish him very, very hard. He'd be at basically at 0 Elixir if he went for a Poison on my first Firecracker. So that whole sequence was a perfect example of how you can maximize your offensive potential, how you can maximize the damage you can get on offense. Because I could have gotten half the damage and I would have still been pretty happy, but I maximized his mistakes and punished him as much as possible. So he goes for an Evo Witch now in the back, and this is the next tip I want to give, is that you really, in these Evo Witch matchups, have to keep track of when they have their Evo Witch. And when they have the Evo Witch, you basically have to go full on defense. Here I played my Tesla one tile too low, and you're going to see that that proves to be quite costly because it's not sniping the Evo Tesla, the Evo Witch when my Knight was on it. So that Evo Witch is now full HP. I'm defending well, you know, I barely take any damage, but the problem is that it messes up my cycle, that now I have to go for my Evo Firecracker and Knight, which is kind of an overcommit. Like, ideally I wouldn't have had to have gone for either of them, but now my cycle's in a bit of a mess because of that small mistake. The good news is we did defend very, very well. We took barely any damage from the graveyard. I go for a Hog here because, I mean, it defends the Knight in one way. You can see how I kited the Knight back, and it forced out a 5 Elixir building anyway. I don't have my Firecracker in cycle right now, which would be ideal, so I just go for my Tesla, and that cleans up everything. I don't want to let him build up too many troops, like especially too many skeletons and spear goblins from like these bait cards that he has, because otherwise if he goes graveyard, it becomes kind of overwhelming. This is really important. He goes Evo Knight graveyard, that's 8 Elixir. I immediately go for a Hog before I even try defending. I also get a Firecracker on offense, but the whole time you can see that I'm defending, and look, I'm already back to my Hog, so instantly I go for a Hog. Firecracker does die, but you can see that the whole time I was defending, I actually get some Hog damage. It's also important to notice that why I change lanes. Here, I was hoping to actually block the bridge. We don't quite manage it, but we have Evo Tesla in cycle, which cleans up all the skeletons, and we get a little bit of RNG damage, like that always happens with RG. But the best thing about this is the fact that we're not really down too much, and we can go opposite lane. You have to basically go opposite lane when you're playing against Graveyard, otherwise you are just going to lose. They're going to build up too much of a defense, like they're going to stack too many troops on defense, and it's going to become overwhelming. So I outcycled him. That was really, really nice, right? I managed to get my Hog to the tower, get a ton of damage, and here he goes for kind of a desperation Graveyard. I go for a Hog just so that, you know, if he's too aggressive, he's going to pay for it. And again, look, I'm defending. I'm more worried about the Evo Witch, to be honest. My Hog gets so much damage. You can see that he went Graveyard, I went Hog, and then he went Poison. If he went Poison with his Graveyard, that's 9 Elixir. So he didn't have any Elixir to be able to defend my Hog. So even though we took a lot of damage, we dealt way more in return. At this point, I'm like, okay, I need to go full on defense here. So I go my Knight, so that something is targeting Evo Knight. I go for a Hog again when he goes for stuff at 0 because I know that I can just EQ and then just Skeletons and Ice Spirit and stuff to defend. This time he doesn't Poison, so he does have enough to defend my Hog Rider, but I'm close to outcycling him, so as soon as that hut goes away, I can just go for a Hog, and he's only got Skeletons and like Bar Barrel and stuff, so I actually go for a Firecracker instead. Maybe I should have just probably Earthquake. I think if I went Earthquake, I probably would have done damage, but I didn't go for an Earthquake. Tried protecting the Firecracker, but it was 1 HP. Oh, it died straight away to the Bar Barrel. And this is a bridge battle. This is really important. You can see that this is a bridge battle, and I am, up to a point, furiously trying to win the bridge battle. Now, you need to know when to bail, but I did manage to kill one of his witches, which was really important. Here, this is just a bad play by him. I go for a Knight, I go for a Log, and I go for an Earthquake. And at this point, there's 30 seconds left. I just have to defend, and you can see how I'm really just kind of splitting up my defense and just making sure that he can't get too much of a push in one lane because I keep applying pressure, and I always have EQ Log to fully defend. I go for a Hog here. I'm just not going to let him go in for another graveyard. I'm just going to be aggressive and stall the time. 3 seconds left, and we win the game. Beautiful, beautiful game against a very, very difficult matchup. And to end the video, our final and last matchup that I'm going to be covering is against Lava Loon. Now, this matchup becomes so much more winnable because now we've got Tesla and Firecracker. So Tesla is going to be really solid for us on defense. You know, in the start of the game, I'm just cycling cycle cards, but you're going to see just how clutch the Tesla becomes in this kind of matchup. I cycle a Knight in the back. I don't really want to cycle my Firecracker. It's kind of a useful card, and, you know, it's possible he can punish me. A Knight is usually a good play if you don't have a Hog. Again, he cycled a 4 Elixir card. I'm just going to go for my Hog Rider left lane so that when I go Firecracker onto the Vault, he sort of Elixir is split up. Go for Ice Spirit just to try and protect my Firecracker. That's my goal, is to try and protect it. He zaps, and because he zaps, I know he doesn't have Valk, he doesn't have Guards in cycle, so I don't know what he has. He goes for his Inferno in that position so that if I went Firecracker at the bridge, I wouldn't get King Tower. But look, if I go Firecracker here, then I have it out of cycle and he'll go Lava in the back. And also, it's just not going to do that well. So I, in fact, cycle a Knight, and I just kite the Inferno. This is a nice play that you guys can take away, is that you can just kite stuff around, and the Knight's full HP, and he still has to spend Elixir. That's the biggest thing, is you want to force out cards from your opponent. And like I said, when you're playing against Lava, you shouldn't be paying attention to their cycle when they have Lava. You need to be paying attention to their cycle in terms of when they have a ground card. So, okay, I don't know why he went Skelly Drags. The whole thing was a bit scuffed, this defense. But, I mean, we do fully defend. Maybe not the most beautiful defense, but we defend. And I'm keeping track of his ground cards. I know he's got Guards in cycle, so I go EQ with Log. Honestly, I needed to be a bit more assertive. I knew he was going to go Guards. I knew the only thing he had in cycle was Guards, but I kind of delayed going for that Log and Earthquake. If I'd done it instantly and just basically prediction gone Earthquake Log, I would have gotten a lot more damage. Anyway, he goes for Lava Hound in the back, and even though my Firecracker I know is going to die, I'm playing it first, right? So that I can get back to another one. At the same time, I'm applying pressure because he just went Lava Hound plus Fireball. I go for an Ice Spirit, really important, because I knew he had his Evo Valk. That's why you got to pay attention to what cards they have in cycle. I knew he had Evo Valk. Here, I'm trying to do something different. I'm stalling, I'm trying to get back to another Tesla, and so I go for it here. I was actually trying to get King Tower. I did not manage to get King Tower, but you can see that we do manage to just basically pull the balloon away, and now we can just get a Knight to distract, Firecracker just for damage, Skeletons just to basically slow everything down, and we get another Tesla. This is a really important Tesla placement, the one I'm showing you here. Everything's being distracted. I log. I'm sort of just buying myself as much time. Firecracker, look at the lineup. No damage basically taken from the balloon, and we're in really good shape. We go for a Hog instantly, Ice Spirit for his Valkyrie, because again he doesn't have Guards in cycle, he just used it. And because he was scared of my Firecracker, he couldn't play his Skeleton Dragons onto my Hog, which meant that my Hog got 2 hits, because he was too busy sniping off the Firecracker. And now I'm like, okay, he just went Lava, and I know the only thing this guy has in cycle is Inferno and Guards in cycle. So now he just uses Inferno. I know for a fact all he has is Guards, so I just go Hog, and this time I was more predictive. I went instantly all in because I knew he had nothing in cycle, and that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Comment down below what you liked, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.